All right, let's get on our detective hats. Today, we're investigating a crime that, let's be honest, affects almost all of us. The frustratingly mysterious case of the slow internet. You know the feeling, right? You pay good money for a high-speed plan. The ads promise you these lightning-fast downloads, but then you jump on a video call or you're in the middle of an online game and it just stutters and lags. It's this super common mystery. So what's really going on here? Well, we're about to follow the clues. So, to crack this case, you've got to understand the two main characters in our mystery: throughput and latency. Now, throughput, that's what we usually call speed. Think of it like the width of your internet highway. How many cars can be on it all at once? But latency, or lag, that's different. That's about how long it takes just one car to make a complete round trip. See, you could have this massive 12-lane superhighway, but if there's a sudden, unexpected traffic jam, your trip is still going to feel incredibly slow. That jam, that's lag. To solve this, we're not just making stuff up. We're actually following a real team of researchers who went undercover, embedding themselves inside a real, functioning internet service provider to see what's actually happening on the ground. And get this. This wasn't some sterile lab experiment. The team literally set up their monitoring equipment right inside the network of Jackrabbit Wireless, an ISP down in Texas. This gave them an absolutely unique vantage point to watch all the traffic for hundreds of real households as it was happening for an entire month. And the sheer scale of this investigation, it's just staggering. They didn't just collect a few clues here and there. They collected over 9 billion individual latency measurements. That is a massive amount of data, giving us this incredibly detailed picture of where all those digital traffic jams are really happening. So our detective's main tool for tracking these jams is something called round-trip time, or RTT. It's actually pretty simple. How many milliseconds does it take for a tiny little packet of data to leave your device, get to a server, and come all the way back? A low RTT means your connection feels snappy and responsive. A high RTT, well, that means lag. Okay, let's start with our first and honestly, our biggest suspect, the global internet itself. You know, this huge web of fiber optic cables and data centers connecting entire continents. Surely this complex beast has to be the source of our slowdowns, right? But here's where the case takes a really interesting turn. When the researchers actually measured the RTT to servers outside the local ISP network, they found it was remarkably fast and consistent. Data zipping over to a major hub in Dallas took just 18 milliseconds. Even going clear across the country only took about 46 milliseconds. These things are incredibly efficient digital superhighways. So, the verdict on our first suspect is in. The global internet? It's mostly innocent. Yeah, occasional disruptions can happen, but it is not the source of your everyday chronic lag. The real culprit is hiding somewhere else. The call, it turns out, is coming from closer to home. Okay, so our next case file is where the plot really thickens. If the problem isn't out there on the global superhighway, we need to start looking at the local roads, that final connection from your provider right into your home. This is what's known in the business as the last mile. And this is exactly where the clues start pointing to our real offender. The researchers found that the most significant and, more importantly, unpredictable delays were happening right here, on this internal network segment from the ISP directly to its subscribers. This chart just illustrates the problem perfectly. Take a look at the last mile latency here. The median, the typical experience, is a totally fine 18 milliseconds. But look at that tail end. 5% of the time, the latency is spiking to over 126 milliseconds. And for the worst 1%, a whopping 326 milliseconds or even more. This is what the researchers call a long latency tail, and it's exactly what you feel as lag. And when does this happen? Well, the data showed a crystal clear pattern. In the middle of the night, say 4 a.m., when network traffic is super low, the latency is consistently great. But at 8 p.m., right during prime time, when everyone is streaming movies and gaming, that long tail of lag gets way worse. It's a digital rush hour, and it's happening on your local network. And here it is, our smoke and gun, a direct quote from the research paper itself. The scientists concluded that this internal leg, the last mile, is responsible for a significant part of the overall lag we all experience. The mystery is getting a whole lot clearer. So our investigation is drawing to a close. We've followed the evidence, we've eliminated a suspect, and we've honed right in on our culprit. Let's lay out the final verdict on who or what is really killing your connection's responsiveness.
So to recap, the case file is clear. First, we've learned that advertised speed isn't the same as responsiveness. Second, we've pretty much proven the global internet is stable. Third, the evidence points directly to the last mile, that final hop to your home. And finally, it gets really bad during the network's busiest hours. But wait, there's one final twist in this case.
And here it is, the final clue, straight from the researchers. They suggest that the most likely culprit isn't just the last mile, but the last few feet. The problem very often is the Wi-Fi network inside your own home. It's the absolute final link in the chain, and a lot of the time, it's the weakest one. So what's the big takeaway from all this detective work? What does it mean for you? Well, it means that your humble Wi-Fi router plays a massive role in how laggy your internet actually feels. If you've got a ton of devices all competing for attention, or maybe an old router, you are literally creating your own personal traffic jam right there in your living room. And crucially, this means that sometimes just upgrading or even moving your router can do more to fix lag than paying your ISP for an even faster plan.
So ultimately, this whole investigation leaves us with a final and pretty empowering question. Your ISP, they're responsible for building that superhighway right to your door. But once that highway arrives, who's the traffic controller for all the devices inside your home? The answer, very often, is you.